Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the hardcore no pet solo self-made hunter. In this episode we are continuing the super engaging Knoll Wool farm and then moving on from there to continue working on professions. We also have some fun conversations along the way about classic versus retail in a couple different elements, so join me. So we're at 24 wool, we need to get to 60. That's the goal.
That's not why we're here. We're here for the wool. The wool cloth.
That's me. Raw sexual magnetism. I'm like the Sean Connery of classic WoW. Making friends as an adult, sometimes you don't realize the age gap difference, and then even after you realize it, you're like, well, that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter that this person that I'm becoming friends with is like 20 years older than me, because we're both adults now, and age doesn't matter. And then there's, yeah, I might want to be farming pearls after this to make a cloak that I might wear all the way to 60, which when you put it in those terms does make it sound pretty enticing. I'll defend GDKPs, but to make the claim that anything is ever going to like not incentivize botting is pretty outrageous, right? Like, if you don't think that people who run bot farms are looking at like Deviant Delight and Zandalar Tribe right now and going, hey, there's like a bunch of people starting to play on those servers. The economies are going to be like pretty fresh and new. That's when they probably are able to make some of the most money, like regardless of GDKP. Where players go, botters will follow. And whether or not that's connected directly to GDKPs, I can't say. Right? Like, it might not always be that, like, GDKPs are the reason that people show up and bot, but to think that there won't just be people showing up and botting and then selling gold, and that, like, GDKPs don't just make that all the more prevalent, like, that's a bit... You gotta be a little bit naive, right? There's been a couple entrapment procs, not a ton. Immolation Trap, unfortunately, only procs off of the initial triggering of the trap. So it's not like Frost Trap where it just continues to proc off of like every tick. If it could proc off of every tick, it would be insane. I have a sweet spot for AQ40 because I didn't ever play it. I never made it past... Oh, shit. I never made it past original vanilla. The farthest I ever got was clearing BWL, and the only reason I ever cleared BWL is because before TBC came out, a different guild took me to one BWL one. So I had never experienced AQ40 or Nax, and then on private servers, I finally got to experience AQ40, and not only did I get to experience it, we got server first Cthulhu, after not having gotten any of the server first on any of the previous tiers. So AQ40 will forever in my mind be like, okay, that's when I got re-hooked on WoW. What makes Visitus hard is stacking poisons, which are hard to mitigate unless everyone has the proper consumables to do so. And then it's the whole idea that in order to deal damage to the boss, you have to hit it with enough frost attacks, and then followed by physical attacks to break Visitus into smaller oozes. And then killing those smaller oozes actually does damage to Visitus. So it's a fight that's like... It's very unique in vanilla WoW, and maybe unique across all of WoW, because your method for killing the boss requires you to use a very specific type of spell damage against the boss, and then physical damage after that to even begin to deal real damage to the boss. And I know that there's other fights throughout WoW where they have sort of gimmicks like that, where, you know, you have to DPS down other things in order to actually deal damage to the boss. But this idea of you have to hit it with X number of frost damage attacks to freeze it, I think is kind of unique. Especially when there isn't anything, there's nothing like in the raid that gives you frost attacks or frost damage. It was just, yeah, figure this out, you know? Just figure it out. Which I think is, it's honestly might be a really good example of the entire thought process behind vanilla World of Warcraft of, you're just going to be presented with this problem, and there are solutions in the game for it, but they're not handed to you. You gotta kind of do some work and figure it out on your own. You think retail or say classic gearing process is better? That's a good question. For anyone who doesn't know how gearing works in retail, it's very efficient. Gear progression is a lot more in your control. It's a lot less just did the item drop and did I win it, right? Which is kind of how in classic vanilla that's the gearing process, right? Did the item drop and did I win it? And like crafted items aren't really a thing, especially in vanilla. They are more in later expansions. But in retail, like you can really fill in gaps with crafted items pretty efficiently. Benefit of the retail gearing process is that it's efficient and it feels more in your control, and it feels like you can get well enough geared to do any content quickly. Like within a couple weeks, you're like, all right, I may not be BIS, but I am not super worried about getting better gear at this point. Like within maybe like 3 or 4 weeks, you're like, I'm as close to BIS as I need to be. If I get upgrades, awesome, but I'm not super worried about it anymore. But whereas in classic vanilla, TBC, even Wrath, you need those items to drop, and sometimes that just won't happen. And there's no like fallback. There's no vault. Like retail has the vault system. But I think the negatives of the retail system are that loot has way less meaning. The way that they like develop content and stuff is not really focused around loot anymore. And your player power progression is a lot less linear. It's like very front loaded each patch. And I think it's just a fundamentally different way to view the game when loot and upgrades are not sort of what you're chasing like they are in vanilla and TBC and Wrath to a certain extent. So as much as it may suck in the earlier classic WoW expansions to not have your loot drop and to feel like every week you're going into the raid hoping that it drops and you can just have week after week of disappointment, there's then a reason to keep doing the raids and keep doing the content on top of it just being a part of the game that you're playing, right? There's reward there. And for most players, they don't get full BIS within the patch or phase that they're in. It gives you a reason to continue to play the game and do the content. Whereas in retail, the reason to continue to play the game and do the content is no longer gear. Now it's mythic raiding or mythic plus dungeons. It's like these either super high difficulty things or infinite scaling things are the reason for you to keep logging in and playing the game. Which is it's just different. It's different ways to view the game. In some ways, I think that's nice. The retail version is nice because you're not super worried about the gear and you can instead put your time into doing things in the game that you want to do, that challenge you, that you get joy from doing. But on the other hand, it feels kind of bad that to be like a month into a new patch of retail and you're like, oh, gear is now kind of meaningless. So why? Because a lot of people, I think, still connect their progression in World of Warcraft with gearing, the gearing process. So I think there's a lot of people who are like, all right, well, I'm geared up. I guess there's no real reason to play anymore. Because I've been on the end of it in Classic where I need, like, you know, I'm a hunter and I need the crossbow out of Blackwing Lair. And it's just not dropping. And every single week going into Blackwing Lair, I'm hoping and praying that it drops. And it's the you know, main reason I'm going to Blackwing Lair every week is to make sure that this weapon drops. And when it does drop, huge endorphin rush. It's fantastic. You're elated. Yes, but then you're like, oh, I got the crossbow out of Blackwing Lair. My next upgrade is off of KT in Nax. But that's kind of, but like that feeling of, all right, well, I have the gear now. I guess I'm not worried about gear and stuff anymore. Like now I'm bored. That's kind of what you feel in retail. But it happens much quicker and much more reliably. That's also, I think there's that added element too, right? Of like, gear is important to a guild as a whole. And so in classic WoW, if you're part of a guild that is, you know, you're playing for the guild, you know, players are playing for themselves. They want to get gear, they want to perform better, they want to parse higher, they want all these different things. But also gear is for the guild, so that like all your runs go smoother. So you can push whatever it is you want to push with your guild. And when important pieces of loot drop, they matter to everyone in the guilds. And when those pieces of loot vanish because people quit the game or whatever, that sucks. And that can hurt relationships. There's a good chance that main hunter who quit your guild the week after he got the crossbow, like, he might not be still speaking to and on really good terms with everyone from that guild. In retail, not a huge deal, because gearing is it's not such a difficult process. So there's less drama over gear in retail. I guess you could say is a benefit to the process. Oh, like there! That's right, we got another one! Woohoo! Actually, did I ever check to see if that cloak that Zidane wants me to make with the pearls is taught by a trainer? Fish pickpocketed. It's not taught by a trainer. Wow. Zidane. What are we even doing then? Can't believe Zidane would do this. I would have been so upset if I had farmed 2 pearls, only to realize, oh, yeah, I'd have to have that pattern drop. Like, man, I'm busy and have no time with 1 kid, and here he is with 19 kids, and he's just dicking around on Twitch. It's hard to keep track, I'm sure, for you. It's gotta be crazy having 22 kids. I'd just be, you know me, I'd just be fucking. Ooh, that's cool. We like that. I need moss agates. That's crazy. I didn't know those guys could drop that. That's awesome. Okay. For my daily burpee challenge. For every new sub I get on YouTube, I do a burpee the next day. I record it, I put the video up, and I say, let's go again tomorrow. Hardcore. Well, we're all doing hardcore in real life. All of us. We're all living one life, right? Hard like these nuts. Why are your nuts so hard? Good idea, Peanut. Maybe while you're there, get a little snip snap, you know, so that you don't have your 26th kid. You said you were ineligible. You're just too much of a... You're too good. You're too good at procreation, man. They're like, no, we can't take an all-star like you out of the game. Can you imagine showing up to the doctor or the urologist and being like, yo, I think I need a vasectomy, and they were like, okay, yeah, like, how many kids have you had? And you're Peanut, and you're like, 28. They'd be like, no fucking way. We can't take a champion like you off the court right now. Not while you're still in your prime. Do you realize how close you are to the record? Oh god. Oh no, dude. Why are they respawning that fast? That's crazy. Check your Discord and stuff just to see if there was a hint of me coming back. Yeah. I kind of sprung it on me though. Oh, this is Peanut's theme song. Anyone who watches a hardcore stream, no matter what your connection is to that streamer, you do want them to die. Let's be frank here, right? Anytime I watch anyone stream in hardcore, I want them to die. Because that's the best thing that can happen. That's the most exciting, fun thing that can happen on a hardcore stream. The near deaths are pretty good. Near deaths also, yeah, true. I mean, 60 ding parties are cool. Also, they make up. Here's the thing: the 60 ding party makes up for the lack of death to that point, right? Like if there wasn't the 60 ding party and people just got to 60 and there was no celebration or anything, then it would feel really bad. But the fact that there's a 60 ding party, it's like, okay, you didn't die. I guess that's fine. Now we get to go do the 60 ding party. I cannot fight these guys without full health. Warrior DH have been even in the past 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Warrior's in a decent place for raiding. Not so much. Well, Fury Warrior in Mythic Plus is pretty decent right now. Dude, these guys like 1v1 me. This is insane. That's a good question. I would say, like, I mean, they're very different, right? And I think the thing that makes Classic interesting is that we, the players, have created the difficulty in Classic by doing speedruns and stuff, right? I would say, like, actually completing a speedrun of, like, AQ40 or Nax in a time that's, like, decent is probably comparable to Mythic rating in terms of difficulty. But they're very different kinds of difficulty. Because you only get one shot at a decent speedrun, like, per week or whatever, right? Or, like, per month in some cases, if it's Darkmoon Fair. So a lot of Classic... If you're taking what I believe is the hardest thing about Classic, which I think is speedrunning the raids, so much of it is planning and practice to then, you know, get one shot to execute it. Versus retail, the difficulty is just in clearing the content. Different, but also, but like similar levels of difficulty if you're trying to actually like compare apples to apples rather than say like, well, clearing Classic raids is super easy. It's like, well, that's not the difficult thing to do in Classic. That's not what the competitive people, the competitive players in Classic are not aspiring to clear the raid. They're aspiring to speedrun the raid. Oh, Barnacle Clan. Yo! That's a small lustrous pearl, baby. All right, we're getting out of here. We're gonna make a cloak. This pearl, we're making a sick little 3-int cloak, I believe. Yeah, 3-int elect cloak. Probably gonna be the cloak that I wear for the rest of this run. So that'll be sick. We're also gonna make wool bags, which might be the bags that I use for the rest of the run. Yeah.
Go with honor, friend.
Thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. You're all wonderful, beautiful people. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If I don't see you before next week, have a good weekend. I love you, Gashiel. I love all of you. But especially Gashiel. Have a great one. And as always, happy hunting. See you guys.